This video is sponsored by Squarespace, the all-in-one platform to build a beautiful online presence and run your business. Aww. And that's what we're doing today, so let's get started. To start, I grab some tin foil, aluminum foil, or aluminium foil, and squish it into the rough head shape I'm going for. We do this because clay is expensive, and I am a broke artist, so we want to save as much as possible. Then, we take that precious clay and wrap it around the foil and start pushing the clay and building up the face. For his eyes, I'm just using some tiny glass cabochons that I have absolutely no chance of accidentally squishing, unlike their clay-eyed cousins, may they rest in peace. I've squashed so many. So I'm making sure to use a ton of, say it with me people, say it with me, references people, references. They just help me better visualize a bear head rather than making something extremely cursed like this.
You're ugly, you're disgusting, I'm gonna kill you.
I'm going for more of a grizzly variety of bear who certainly chugged one too many bottles of honey and is now a chunky boy. So I'm building up the clay, especially around his cheeks, and making sure to add some floofy cheek fluff to fur texture later on. I wanted the bear to have a sweet expression, and I'm going to be reflecting that in the slight smile I give the mouth. I just want him to look happy and be full of honey all the time and just be a serotonin giver. Bears have giant boopable noses, and I wanted to make sure I make a heckin' sniffer that a bear would be proud of. To make my life easier when it came to texturing the nose, I literally just took one of my sculpting tools that had like a grippy texture for your fingies, but instead I just rolled it all over the nose so it made it look like nose texture. To texture the fur on his face, I made a bajillion tiny strokes all over it in varying directions to make sure I gave flow to the fur, making it look more realistic and to hide any anatomy mistakes I may have made. The cheek fluff get two passes, one rough pass to make deep gouges in the fur, the other to refine and add tiny fur details. And once I'm all done, I brush on some alcohol to soften any of the sharp lines. I want to make big, huggable paws, so I make them extra wide, keeping in mind to add 5 toes rather than the usual 4 that I do. I mark the toes and refine the shape with sculpting tools, but I don't need to be too detailed, as much of the top of the feet are going to be covered in faux fur. But I can't forget to add his toe beans, making sure to remember that the front and back feet are actually different placement patterns. Again, anatomy. For the claws, I'm making them out of flexible cos clay so that I'll never snap another claw. As long as I live. And once I'm happy with everything, I bake it in the oven at 270 degrees Fahrenheit for roughly 30 to 45 minutes. And while they're baking in the oven, let's take a second to talk about our sponsor, Squarespace. Beekeeper has been wanting to share with you all his newest adventures. With the start of spring, it's time to harvest honey for sale on his website using Squarespace. On his new website, you can see his latest portfolio and not only see his beekeeper ensemble, but also all his hard work and jarred honey. He uses their password protected pages to make sure these oh too sweet photos don't fall into the wrong paws. And if you want to get your hands on a jar of his honey, Squarespace makes it easy for Little Beekeeper with its built-in e-commerce. The stock is limited though, so make sure you're logged in and ready for the shop update. So if you'd like to be like Little Beekeeper, head to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/kbcreations to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. And once again, thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. And once everything is sculpted and baked in the oven, it's time to make the armature. And remember, I will list all materials I use in the description down below. To attach the head to the armature, I violently stab the back of the head where the foil is, fill that hole with goop, aka hot glue, and stick the spine in until it cools. The glue locks it in place so that it'll never fall out. Once that's done, it's time to build up the body, and for that I'm using quilt batting. It comes in these long sheets because they're, made for quilts, and I'll cut it into strips and wrap it around the armature over and over until the body is built up to how I want. I want to make sure not to build up too much, keeping in mind the thickness of the fabric I'm going to add on top of it. We want a chonker, but not a, oh lord, he coming. But like I always say, if you want chunk, chunk, chunk boy, you go and you get chunk, chunk, chunk boy. If you want thin, thin, thin boy, you go and you get thin, thin, thin boy, okay? We support all body shapes and sizes here. Popping in for your not so daily reminder that you have been thinking about a project, be it art related or just something that you've been really wanting to do, but you have just been constantly talking yourself out of it, and you're just saying to yourself,
I'm not good enough, I'm not talented enough, there's no way I'm going to do that, it's just gonna fail.
I don't even know where to get all these supplies, and no, I can't do it, just no.
Hey, you look at me in these eyes holes, okay? You look at me right here, okay? You can go and do that thing, okay? That thing that you have been thinking about, you can absolutely go start it and you can go rock it, okay? I absolutely believe in you. You guys tell me all the time about how much you believe in me, so I believe in you, okay? While the rest of this video is playing, like I always say, go start the first steps to doing that whatever that project is. If it's an art project, go get your pencils together, go get your paintbrushes, your paint, sculpting tools, sculpture, stuffage, go get that all together. Whatever project it is, either go make a list of steps you need to do to complete it, or go get the materials together, or just go start it, okay? I promise you, you will feel so proud of yourself if you actually go and start this with this video, and you have an art buddy. I'm right here, and we can art together, and it'll be a fun time, so go do it. I promise, it'll be great. I love you. Go drink water. I almost forgot. Go drink some water, okay? Go drink some water. I'd also like to share with you these wonderful art pieces. Look at them. Aren't they so talented? Aren't they so beautiful? Just mwah, mwah. If you would like to show me something that you have made, be it an art doll, fan art, or just anything in general that you would like for me to see, please use the hashtag KPtutorial so that I can find it and possibly share it in my next video. Okay, now back to the project that I'm sure I'm not dying at right now. Now, I'll always say I am definitely not the channel to come to for competent sewing advice, as I certainly haven't a clue what I'm doing half the time. I basically just cut mismatched pieces of fur, trim them down so they vaguely fit around the body, sew it up and hope for the best, and somehow it always seems to work. That is the go for it method here, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I definitely wanted stripes to simulate a bee, so the panda vibe worked pretty well. And I didn't even realize that was what I was doing until right now. I made a yellow and brown panda, y'all. I didn't even know. Didn't even realize. Man. Much to editor Sarah's dismay, I am going to be trimming this guy a little bit, but not too much, I promise. We still want a very floofy boy. I'm using a pet shaver and it works like a dream with faux fur and comes with different guards to keep the trim nice and smooth at whatever length I want. But even still, I have to always go back in with scissors to detail everything to make sure that the leg joints are nice and prominent and look a little bit more real and realistic. That's our favorite words to use around here. We hope that if we say it enough, that it will actually look like a creature and not just a amalgamation of things. I want to give a light gradient between the furs just to help them fade a bit better and have a little bit more variety than just a flat color. For this, I use a dual action gravity feed airbrush, which is just really fancy talk for a pressure controlled airbrush where you put the paint in at the top. We don't want a crunchy boy by any means, so I make sure to layer on the paint slowly and brush the fur in between layers. I love how just a couple of extra hues of color can really make a difference and really bring more life into the piece. So I definitely recommend add a bunch of different colors. Just go crazy. Live your best life. Next up is painting all the clay biddies, and the first step for that is I primed his face white, as I realized very quickly that yellow and orange are the devil and take forever to layer up, so priming it white just makes my life a little bit easier, just a little bit. I try to match the fur as best as I can so I don't end up with a neon yellow head, and I used a lot of wet blending, especially around the muzzle, to fade the yellow to a dark brown just to give that a little bit more variance. I could have used the airbrush for this, but as you all know, I like to suffer. Once the base layer is dry, I dry brush progressively lighter and lighter shades to bring out all the details we meticulously sculpted earlier. The nose and lips get a near black brown. You can absolutely tell the difference, don't come for me. And the eyes, I kept mostly brown with just a pop of yellow highlight just to make sure that they were extra bright. Now, I totally didn't forget to press record on my camera to get a nice close-up shot of me applying UV resin to the eyes and nose to get a nice glossy effect, and I'm definitely not miming that process here now. Definitely not. Damn, I'm a professional. The claws get a nice claw base, and then I go over that with a lighter claw base color. The toe beans get a pinky brown color, as I didn't want to go too neon pink and make it unrealistic, as we know that this is a real animal and it needs to be anatomically accurate. But also just look how cute those toe beans are. Oh my god, I just want to squish them! This being a BumbleBear, we need to add his little bee features. So I decided to 3D print a pair of wings in clear resin, and with the magic of editing, they're already done, and just look how great they turned out. I love the details of the wing veins, but I wanted them to pop just a little bit more, so I'm actually going to go ahead and tint them with a brown wash. To attach them to his chunky highness, I cut a slit in his back and fill it with more goop and inserted the wings until they were nice and secure, and they just look absolutely adorable. And for his wee little antennas, I rolled out a curved noodle of cosplay so they still stayed flexible. I hand drilled some holes into the head and secured them with super glue. And with that, this adorable little bean is done and is ready to frolic in the fields.